Last night's third Democratic presidential debate featured all the frontrunners on the same stage for the first time. The event also offered a lot of diversity, with 3 women, 2 African Americans, 1 Hispanic, and 1 Asian candidate, all sharing one stage for the first time. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is with me now from Houston. I know it was a late night for you, Ed, so I really appreciate you joining us this early in the morning. So, Ed, this was the first time that all of the Democratic frontrunners were on the same stage. How did things play out?
You know, Anne-Marie, I'm always impressed that they can stand there for almost 3 hours and discuss these issues. And many might argue at this point that nothing was really done to upset the apple cart, that your top 3 remain: Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. They had some pretty substantive disagreements over health care, exactly how Medicare for All, for example, would be paid for, and whether Biden's plans to expand the Affordable Care Act might make more sense. He got some help in that from other moderates like Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar on stage, who raised concerns about the price and the ambitions of Medicare for All. And beyond that, there were some interesting exchanges on foreign policy, finally, as well as immigration and gun control.
So let's dig in a little bit to health care, because that was one of sort of the highlights of the debate. There was a lot of talk about that, but there's one exchange that really sort of gained a lot of traction. It came when former HUD Secretary Julian Castro appeared to criticize former Vice President Joe Biden's memory. You spoke to Castro afterwards, but I want everyone to sort of see the exchange first, and then we can talk about it.
If they choose to hold on to strong, solid private health insurance, I believe they should be able to do that. But the difference between what I support and what you support, Vice President Biden, is that you require them to opt in. And I would not require them to opt in. They would automatically be enrolled. They wouldn't have to buy in. That's a big difference, because Barack Obama's vision was not to leave 10 million people uncovered. He wanted every single person in this country covered. My plan would do that. Your plan would not.
They do not have to buy in. They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies for Medicaid,
are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Be in for it.
Are you forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago? I mean, I can't believe that you said 2 minutes ago that they had to buy in, and now you're saying they don't have to buy. You're forgetting that.
He had said that if you lose your job, you have to, you would automatically buy in to his plan.
Right.
When he said buy in, not everybody can buy into a plan. In other words, the difference between my approach and his approach is that in his approach, you would have to opt in to a plan. In my approach, you would have to opt out. That means that he would leave 10 million people uncovered. When he denied saying buy in, I said, didn't you just say buy in like 2 minutes ago?
So we pulled the transcript. And he does say here, anyone who can't afford it gets automatically enrolled in the Medicare type option we have. And then goes on with his answer. And then later on,
if you lose your job,
your insurance from your employer, you automatically can buy into this.
That. So this is the thing, Ed. When he says that, there's nothing automatic about it. If you have to buy in, there's some people that can't afford it, they cannot buy in. So I would just ask folks to really think about the policy here. That's why it was important for me to zero in on that, because his plan would leave 10 million people uncovered. My plan, my approach would cover everybody. So it's not a disagreement about personality, it's a disagreement about the policy.
Ed, I'm looking at your facial expression as you're trying to take it in, because even I was like, wait a minute. Are we just talking semantics here? Is it that he said buy-in, even though he said automatically right before it? And the criticism that Julian Castro was getting for was this idea that he was going after Biden for his memory / his age. And I think we all sort of expected that Biden being the front runner, he was probably going to take some hits. But some people sort of felt that might have been a low blow. But can you sort of clarify for me?
You saw me yanking at my hair because that was hair splitting. Look, Castro insisted afterward that this was some kind of policy disagreement. You were watching it, I think you know what he was trying to do. He went there. He raised the concerns about Biden's age and agility that have been raised quietly, privately by other campaigns, and have been raised in media reports over the course of the summer. Some I spoke with afterwards said he said what needed to be said. Others said it was out of bounds, below the belt, politically suicidal. They reminded us of Eric Swalwell and Kirsten Gillibrand, the California congressman and the New York senator, who in the last 2 debates tried to raise concerns with Biden in different ways, saw their support erode within weeks, and are no longer with us in this race. So Castro, had to roll the dice there, bit of a gamble. He's stuck in single digits, both here in his native Texas and across the country, and we'll see what comes of this. His campaign overnight doing what it can to call out the fact that, yeah, he said it both ways. He was confusing people. And again, it's over the issue of who exactly would be eligible to get into Biden's health care plan if they hit certain income thresholds versus who would be eligible if you're in Castro's. God bless them for getting into the details. Most people watching probably don't care because they saw what Castro was trying to do there.
Right.
Raise concerns about the former vice president's age.
All right. Okay, let me get on to another hot topic, gun control. Also a big topic last night. Beto O'Rourke received some of the loudest cheers from the crowd when he addressed assault weapons. Here's what he said.
If it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield, if the high impact, high velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body because it was designed to do that so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
All right, so, this is a debate taking place in Texas. Yeah, it's an audience full of Democrats, but I presume a large percentage of them are from Texas. Beto O'Rourke went out there and said something that I think most Democrats actually haven't really been willing to say, which is, yes, you're afraid we're going to take away some of your guns? We will. I will if I'm the president. So how do you think this played?
It doesn't poll well among people in gun-owning households. But if you look overall here in Texas and across the country, there is support for what O'Rourke is suggesting here. And it's very specific, a mandatory buyback of assault-style weapons, AK-47s, as he said, AK-15s, and having them destroyed. He said later that he had spoken with some gun owners at a gun show during one of his recent stops in a southern state, and they said, yeah, you know what, you may have a point here. Let's get behind this. We'll see. You can see the Republican ads that would run. He wants to take away your guns. And now you see Democratic candidates turning around and saying, yeah, I do want to take away certain weapons. And they back it up with polling that shows that, given what's been going on in this country over the last several years, there's support for doing that. So we'll see where this debate goes. Remember, there were some on stage who raised skepticism, saying this should be voluntary, at least at first, not mandatory. Again, you have a way of seeing some of these issues work their way into the debate and become mainstream for the party. This may end up being one of them.
All right, let us talk about Senator Elizabeth Warren. Her comments about withdrawing all U.S. troops from Afghanistan. She's being criticized for the way she framed the mission here. Pete Buttigieg, who is a veteran, pushed back against her comments after last night's debate in the spin room. Let's listen to what he had to say.
I don't see it the way Senator Warren does. I believe that we have a very clear purpose and mission to hold in mind, and that is to make sure that Afghanistan is never again a base for a terrorist attack against the U.S. homeland.
So what else did Buttigieg and other veterans have to say about the senator's comments?
Well, we asked him, given what Warren said, raising real doubts about the mission in Afghanistan, if you were a veteran watching who had served in Afghanistan, would you be out of bounds to think that maybe Warren was writing off your service? And Buttigieg agreed and said, yeah, actually, I think they'd be valid in thinking that. So that was an interesting moment of real contrast there on a sensitive subject that's obviously been in the news in recent days, whether or not to keep the U.S. military presence in Afghanistan after 18 years of being there.
Very good. I think the trains are running on time. If that's a train behind you, it's pretty loud. Ed, thank you very much. Is it? Yeah.
It's the morning train.
There you
we don't know
go.
where it's going, but it's loud.
It is. Thank you so much, Ed.